Scotty boy, how are we?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yourself?
Good, mate. Good. I want to start this off by asking you one question. How much have you lost since joining with me?
Today we got a new low. 88.7 we're at now. So starting at 140. The high I think on the programme was 141.6. So about 53 kilo.
53 kilograms start to finish is, mate, it's insane. That alone is insane. And I wanted to chat a little bit about where you were at prior to joining, and then I want to kind of go through the experience, some of the wins that you've had, because I know recently we had another really big one.
Yep.
But how long have we been working together?
11 months, isn't it?
Close
We're almost sort of like 11 months to the day.
yeah. Close to a
So
year. So you and I have known each other for a long time, a long time. Let's take us back to before we joined. You know, we sat on a call July 2024.
Yep.
Where were you at round about that time period in life?
Well, right, so I'll go in a little sort of like 2-minute detour. Because by the end of this, the scope it's going to be pretty big, and even I'm beginning to sort of acknowledge that now. July 2024, I would class that as the end period of the worst years of my life. A lot of stuff had happened in sort of the years before. Confidence was incredibly low. A lot of just no hope. And part of that, to give people context, is primary school, biggest guy in the class. Secondary school, biggest guy in the class. First 2 years of uni, biggest guy in the lecture hall. And then you get to the third year of uni and you start to essentially lose weight without the guidance of a PT. And I remember me and you spoke on the initial call about sort of what were the motivational factors back then. And they were for the wrong reasons. And it would have never lasted and it wasn't sustainable. Then, COVID hits and, a bunch of things happen. And the worst thing I did at the time was almost idolise what I'd done before. Because it made then getting back on track 10 times harder.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that was unattainable.
What was that you'd done before? Like the harsh diet? Like what was that setup?
So it was just almost like pure cardio. But there wasn't a sort of like stuck direct plan. The diet, whilst it was healthier, it wasn't. It's nothing like it is now. In fairness, I say diet. I mean, you'll remember at the start, sort of what I was eating, how we were eating. Barely eating anything throughout the day, and then eating the bulk of your calories at night.
Yeah.
So something I'm not even going to call it a diet because it's the best that I've ever eaten, and the most consistent and the best food sources. But to get back on track, so at the end of that period, there was years of sort of doubt. Part of me sort of didn't want to change because, I mean, how was this time going to end any differently than what it did the first? And I remember it, and I'll give you your props. The social media adverts are outstanding. The promotional sort of videos, and I remember I just sort of followed you off the back of one of them, and then you sent me the message, and then before I know it, I was on a call. And I was essentially just giving you the lowdown of what I've just sort of said there. But by that point, I'd had a long time, 5 years essentially, between the first time and now this time, where I was thinking, and it was just a case of, right, I had it in my head that I knew I would start again. I didn't know how or how that would take effect or with who. But once we started, I had it in my mind, no, we're going full pelt.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you said to me on the initial call, you need to give me your full effort. Which at the time, if I put myself in your shoes, that's a fair statement. But in my head, I was like, no, there's going to be no concern about that. Like we're in this now. We're in it to do it right. We're in it to overcome 28 years of doubt, insecurities.
What was that turning point? Because you've had that identity, Scott, of always being the heavier guy in the classes all through, high school and stuff, and you lost it all. You then gained a lot of it back. what was the turning point for you, July of last year, for you to sit on that call and be like, to have that confidence that now was the time?
There wasn't one exact moment. It was a very gradual sort of process over time. Of course, with how you were communicating at the time with me, the fact that I knew you,
Mhm,
it gave me like it was just like an instant sort of right at ease.
mhm,
Um, and I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit later on, but some of the advice that you give sort of throughout, it helps keep you going. Um, honestly, I don't know, because by that point, I'd already like been through so much, and this wasn't inflicted on me by anyone else. It was inflicted on me by me. And for years, I lived inside my own head, lived in the past. Um, then you essentially give up, and I guess just after time, after so much time had passed, and I wouldn't. Well, sort of the end result of this journey and this story may encourage people to make the change. I would not advocate for anyone to do what I done,
mhm,
because I waited and I waited and I waited, and that was dangerous.
mhm,
And then I don't know. Honestly, I think the stars aligned, because I think I was ready at the time. I'd been through, you can't even sort of call it rock bottom. Like I'd been there for so long. You'd been through it, and then with time, I guess I just got hope again. And just to go on a little sort of detour, I love the fact that you focus on dads, or at least that's sort of like part of the focus, and helping them get healthier for their children and so on.
yep,
As someone who was raised by two two females, my gran and my mum, my family skipped a generation of a father figure. So, one of my goals is to hopefully one day have a family, have kids. And, I think part of me was like, I'm not disillusioned by sort of how the modern world works. Like, you need the physical aspect of it as well as the personality and all of that. Part of me was, no, there's more to my life than this. My life doesn't end, in darkness in a room wishing that I'd done things, accepting defeat,
yeah,
not finally overcoming this.
yeah, yeah,
Not a chance. So when you popped up to me, it was like, right, I'm familiar with you. I've seen the results. Did hear it was hard, which I would immediately just like to, nip that in the bud. It's not like you've got all the support in the world. It's so structured, and yeah, just since then it's been full steam ahead.
I remember when we originally spoke and when we sat on that call, and as you'd said, I'd said to you, "Give me your all." And I remember saying at that time point, like, this will not happen overnight. Like, this will be a journey. This will be a process for you, and that's hard for guys to do because people want instant, gratification.
Hmm.
Um, and we've seen progress very, very early on. But what I'd said to you was, if you stick to this, I promise I will change your life. When we got started on that process and you started to really change a lot of your habits and your routines, what was that like, going through a period of darkness to then finally making that investment in yourself and making that step?
A complete breath of fresh air. Um, even just again, sort of like the food structure, the meal plan. I knew what I was going to eat. I knew roughly when I was going to eat it. So then I could prep. Well, that gave me something to do during the week when I'd maybe otherwise be doom scrolling.
Hmm.
Um, just having that sort of structure in place, finding your own way to work around things. If I've got a step target to reach, right, okay, well, how am I going to reach that day to day? And you just sort of like find ways around it.
Hmm. What was the real, like, the driving force for you, Scott? Because, like, there was times through our journey, and no doubt we'll continue to do so, but it will be difficult. And I know we've had a lot of psychological roadblocks. What was the, or what has been the big factor that's allowed you to push past these when in the past it would maybe derail you?
So the first thing is that you had the structure in place, because that kept you consistently. And I remember you said to me, it was check-in feedback sort of somewhat earlier on, and you said it isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The only thing getting in the way of us doing this is time. Do you know how much belief that alone gives? Even if things aren't, coming off sort of rapidly or whatever at that particular point, it's like, no, I'm going to keep going here. I'm going to keep doing what I need to do. Um, and then of course, once things start coming off, um, you start being special enough to be featured on Instagram stories. And then you start getting like feedback both from people you know, people you don't know, and of course, like that helps. I guess sort of the main difference is that I'd already experienced this.
Mhm.
So whilst I'm appreciative of that, I'm very much now laser focused, moving forward, crystal clarity. This time it's for me, it's for the right reasons, and I'll accept all. Obviously it's nice to get that, and people give you comments and all of that, and it's good. And to someone going through it the first time, that can push them to the moon.
Yeah.
For me, I'm very much keeping myself grounded.
Yeah. Because for context, for people watching, when we had our first call, you'd said that you'd lost a lot of the weight. And I
Mhm.
actually remember you during
Mhm.
that time period. If you go on your Instagram,
Mhm.
there's photos of you being social and then it goes
Oh,
amiss.
you can see the entire journey in a 3-year gap in
Yeah.
between. Yeah.
And during that process, you had a lot of plaudits and you had a lot of people saying, well done. And that you got complacent during that time period. And then you fell back on. Do you feel, Scott, that, or why do you feel that you fell back to like the old habits and you went from like losing all the weight to then gaining it back and then some? What was the cause of that?
Well, I hinted on it earlier on, but one of the wrong reasons was, I guess, to finally get the attention that I always wanted that I never got. Well, you see enough progress, naturally that comes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you think, job done. I don't need to keep doing this. It's going to sound harsh, but I got distracted
Mm-hmm.
from something that I never should have.
Mm-hmm.
And that is my own journey, my own goal.
So what's the difference like this time around for you?
It's for me. It's and not only that, but you learn the lessons
Mm-hmm.
that you've learned over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's honestly for me, and I mean, you know this. To give you your credit, you're almost part-time therapist, and I'm the one with a bloody psychology degree. Might as well toss that in the fucking bin. Like you know me, like you see like a 1 kg drop off, and I'm fuming,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're like, that, stop being so hard on yourself,
Yeah.
and I'm like, no, no, we won't allow that. This time, there's momentum. This time, we finish it for good, and this time we do it right, and we do it in a sustainable way, where even if down the road, there is other factors that can come in. Because what I would say is the fact that I essentially had nothing going for me back then has maybe been a blessing because I've been able to fully focus on this.
Yeah.
There'll be clients that you have that have got children, missuses, jobs, businesses, whatever. I say jobs. I mean, we know that was one of the sort of recent successes, but
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about that for sure.
yeah. But
Wh-
no, it's solely sort of for me now, and we don't stop until it's done.
Where were you at that time point? You know, when it came to confidence, when it came to your job, you know,
Hmm.
socializing before we had started. What did your life look like at that point?
Well, you remember it was just after career break. And looking back, that was probably the right decision. It gave me the time just to put everything in pause and just think, like, there's more to life than this.
Hmm.
I'm capable of so much more. And whilst it seems so far away now, put it this way, if I didn't believe that we could reverse what was happening there because, low on confidence, right? Um, my close friends will know this. I seen them sparingly. Well, yeah, I still do because I'm focused and I've got my priorities. But um, I disappeared. I mean, for example, that post that we put up
Yeah.
for the -100. I know you thought it was gimmicky. Fair enough. But for me, that was the big turning point. My mum's retiring. I'm shooting for promotions. There's a change in the guard there. There's then also the case of, right, no, this is the change in the guard now. Right, I'm sorry, you've put up with the worst of me. This is the point that we don't go back to.
Mhm.
This is that we've broken through for the final time, and we're staying under that. But confidence was low, and just I wasn't moving. Um, and in part, we touched on it briefly earlier on, but in terms of just that mentality of, no, we keep going and we won't stop. We won't get distracted until it's done.
Mhm.
I think part of that was actually built through that period, almost just like this siege mentality, because there was very little going for me.
Mhm.
Forgotten about, and part of the sort of reason for that post was the people who I had like disappeared in their eyes. No, this is a small insight into why, and I'm sorry, and it should have never happened, but here we are now. We're awake now. We're no longer sleeping, and we're pushing forward and we're moving quickly.
So you sat on that call with me July. Um, I said to you, commit to this, and I will change your life. To your credit, you stuck to it. You still are sticking to it. What I'm curious to know, Scott, what is it that drives you? Like, why are we still here? Why are we still making the progress? Why have you dropped off 53 kilo of body fat? What's the driving force for this?
We're sort of like not done. Like phase one, fat loss. Phase two, maybe we start sort of tightening things up. We spoke about through this journey, you're overcoming doubt, you're overcoming insecurity, you're bouncing back from failure. Well, one of the biggest insecurities that I've had my entire life is right here. Well, that's phase two, and that's after we lose 60 kg. So there's a lot to achieve, and even 53 down, we scraped the surface. And if I don't know if you still get the recording, but if you went back and listened to the original call and you just compared that to what I've said now,
Yeah.
it's night and day, man. It's night and day. I'm not done. I've got a lot more that I want to achieve, personally, professionally, physically. And you want to get to that point where you are the very best version of yourself, mentally, physically, experience-wise. Because, I mean, we're only here for so long. So, and thanks to this process, my time's been prolonged. Make the most of it.
I really, mate, I really love the outlook that you have on all of this, because I speak to people who are at the start point, like you were in a worse position than them, and it would be easy for you to stay at that point, but like you haven't, mate. Like you've defied all odds through the entire journey, which is like, there's been times, mate, I'll be honest, where I've came in and I've read stuff you've said in your feedback and I've cried. Like I've genuinely shed tears and I've cried.
I will not cry now, though.
No, no
Right?
tears, no tears, no tears.
There's no
But
tissues.
it's credit to how resilient you've been, and what your journey has shown to me is that your excuses are bullshit. There is no excuses. If you want to get better, there is nothing stopping you from getting better. And you are a prime example of that. So we started our journey July. The way is really been flying off of us. Walk me through like your experience. We're looking at this with a really bird's eye view, because I could spend 2 hours talking to you about
Oh,
your
yeah,
journey
yeah,
and
yeah.
what we've done. But walk me through like how the experience has been from 140 kg to now 89 kg and still coming down.
Well, for a start, it doesn't hurt to walk. It's always a good sign. I've got the experience of doing it before, but for people who are doing it for the first time, you will feel it before you see it. Would be my sort of best advice.
When you say feel it, in what ways? What ways are we
You'll
speaking?
feel it in clothes. You'll feel it in just I mean, no that I blooming just, stare in the mirror and start, touching parts of my body, but you will be able to sort of maybe like feel, like for example, like your rib cage. Oh, I couldn't feel that before. With me, a big thing is like my hands, like knuckles, right? You know what I mean? You would clench your fist up before, and you wouldn't be able to barely see anything. Um, small ones, small ones, and I'm not saying get out of bed and do your 9K steps or whatever, and go to the gym 5 days a week, and bust your ass on the treadmill, just so you can see your knuckles, right? That's not what I'm saying. But take the small wins as momentum. Momentum will push you forward. Once then, your results inevitably, end up on your page. Then that keeps you going. Because if someone's going through it for the first time, let's say for example, someone's always been the bigger guy, similar to me, and they're going through this for the first time, and then they start getting that appraisal, recognition. My word, that can put the rocket boosters on. But the danger is there then is that you get complacent. You
So
know,
how is maybe the experience been different now versus the last time you lost a lot of the weight when it comes to complacency? Why are we not complacent now?
I learnt lessons. There's always the risk you can go back. And in my case, I think I actually went further back than maybe what I'd started.
Do you feel a
Um,
lot of that came from the setup that you had, like upon hindsight, because you were doing something that wasn't sustainable versus now, we've got structure, we
mhm.
have accountability, we have routine. Has that been a big element?
Night and day between the two times. Like, I don't want to sound arrogant, but this has been way easier than I thought it was going to be. And that's because you put your faith in time, but you also keep yourself to the standards. And if you don't, be honest. Be honest with you. Because and at the start, there's always that kind of period of, right, okay, I'll say I hit my step goal that day, but I didn't move out of the house, right? And maybe you're big enough to get away with it. Now, obviously, you can't do that because the weight's right down. That will flag up. But even if you aren't hitting the standards, what's important to let you know, because then you can only feed back and try and sort of plan forward if the information you're working with is accurate and you're at your best because you've got the knowledge. I mean, some of the stuff that you described to me in check-ins and it's all bloody fancy words and all of that, and I'm like, I've got no idea what he's talking about, but it sounds good, and he's smiling, so we'll take that. Honestly, a genius. Just in terms of the whole thing, from the layout, from the support. I know you mentioned at the start, communication is going to be key, and it is when it needs to be, but very rarely. But that's because we don't need to.
Yeah.
Like, and that won't be the same for everyone. So if there was someone who did need that, like you'd be there.
Now, in your case, you've lost 53 kilogram. Like that's 110 pounds. That's incredible stuff. When it comes to the application of the program and working with us, what would you say is the biggest contributing factor to that?
What for me or just in terms of the
And no,
program?
in your case, in your journey, because like no one in the program's lost that amount, which is that's immense. That's crazy to lose that. So with what we've done,
Hmm.
what do you feel has been the biggest thing that's potentially had a big impact on that?
Just consistency. It's got to be consistency. Consistency over time. Do what you need to do. Find a way. And if you don't one day, do more than next. And just keep it going. I tend to be very reserved, which might sound strange to you because, yeah, I mean, you mentioned it earlier on, right? You know what I mean? Like, I can be very sort of, I'm a very emotionally driven guy. Um, the check-ins, you know what I mean? I'm practically writing like Shakespeare on those sometimes. Um, Not everyone will see that side, and that's deliberate. Um, but I'm very sort of, in part of my mind, I'm very hard on myself. So yeah, okay, that's great. You've lost 53 kg. you've broken all kind of records, whatever, blah blah blah. Right, that's fine. It's good that you've done it. But that's because I had to, and it's because I failed before. And for me, it's constantly just no. This time we do it right. This time we get it off, we keep it off, and we look better than what we've ever done before. I'm not a guy that's motivated by a six pack, biceps, having the biggest chest, so I want to bench press, 150 kg, whatever. No, but when I go to the gym, it's 95% of the time it's fully serious. Um, do things right. And if not, then obviously, you send the form clips in and then you sort of bounce back. And I hold the mindset, and what's kept me going is this version of me this week is better than the version of me last week. So I'm going to do more. I'm going to push more. And that's fine. And, between a couple of weeks, there might not be much, but you do that for 12 weeks in a row, 3 months, and then you look at there and then it's completely different. And then again, that motivates you.
Yeah.
Because you're like that, wow, well, this is actually working. And then you've got the scale weight side of things, you've got the progress photos, which I'm surprised you actually asked me to come on this, because I thought we were hiding me for a bigger reveal.
Well, the visuals will be insane. One of the things actually you'd said to me, Scott, when you walked in is, no one ever sees me without a jumper on, and you're wearing a t-shirt right now. Walk me through that. Like, how does that now feel to be able to wear clothes that you want to wear instead of wearing clothes that are hiding you?
I don't do it very often, only because I'm not at the end point. But it's a statement. It goes back to sort of always being insecure. Unfortunately, but it is what it is. And through this process, we're overcoming that. And a large part of that have been what we've done so far. But the real sort of final point of that is going to be what we're going to do moving forward.
Yep.
How
important is that been for you? Because to stay on a journey of our trajectory for an 11-month period after having social occasions, you like a poker night, things like that. How important has like our planning been in constantly looking at the longer term picture with you? Has that helped any?
Yeah, and the thing is that it's so easy to follow. I don't want to give away all the tricks, so I won't. But you've educated me on how to do that, how to successfully navigate it. Now, of course, you can't go completely mental. Done that a few times, as you know. But you get educated through this to the point where it becomes seamless, and all you need to do then is apply it. And that comes from preparation, whether that's meal prep, whether that's knowing, exactly sort of what to do, what not to do, how long are you doing it in advance. And when I say that, I'm not talking about, you go and you bust your arse on the treadmill. It's got nothing to sort of, do with that. Essentially, we use the term banking calories.
Yeah. Has that been maybe one of the biggest things that you've learned, or like what's been the biggest thing that you've learned through this process that is potentially been a massive factor in you dropping 53 kg?
Honestly, it's full-fledged accountability on so many fronts. Accountability for what you're eating, portion sizes. Accountability to do what you need to do. Go to the gym, and if you don't, then be honest with you, because then you can help plan. If you know you've got things coming up, then that's fine. I'll give you a little heads up. Not once have you said to me, "No, don't do that." Do you know what I mean? No, like you've never said that, and then it's always a case of, right, okay, you've got this coming up, so this is what we're going to do to sort of prepare us. And honestly, it's I cannot stress how, and my arms aren't tied behind my back here. Like it is so simple and easy, and that's coming from someone who gave up.
Yeah.
Who didn't want to change.
See if, and I'm sure you've actually already had this, probably your mum's retirement. If someone had last seen you, Scott, when you were 140 kg in July 2024, and they bumped into you on the street in Glasgow here just now, what do you think they would say? What do you think they would notice?
Oh, when they know it was me, mate. To be honest, I mean, obviously they would give you praise, right? Wouldn't they? Which again I would accept, but me, being partway through this process, I'm very much, put it this way, I'm one of the worst people. When it comes to getting praise, I don't know how to take it. And especially because as of right now, we're not at the middle, but very much in my mind, we're at the middle. We're still going. But no, listen, they would give me my praise. They would say you're doing incredible, you're doing amazing. You might get an odd sort of, yeah, this is inspirational, or whatever. Funny enough, and I'm not going to name them, but after that sort of 100 kg post, I got a voice message from one of the guys that I know, and he was just saying, look, I mean, what's important is that you're starting to feel good. Looking good's one thing, but feeling good, actually feeling good, feeling yourself, having confidence with that. And countless people see this, and hopefully one listening to this can give them some reassurance that, okay, like, even if things haven't been going well and you have hit your rock bottom, or you don't know what the next step is, make the jump. Make the jump, because it will be the best thing that you do. Everything, physically, mentally, just general energy levels, having a positive outlook on life. Which, I mean, being here in 2025, you kind of need. But aye, it's make the jump, do it.
When we look at your journey as a whole, we talk about the impact on confidence. We talk about the impact on wearing clothes that you like rather than that hide you. These are huge and these are truly life changing. When we look at the health element, where is your headspace been in that regard compared to before to now?
Well, this is where my own sort of high standards will sort of humble me, because you can't ignore it. Just generally, you move quicker. Big part of that will be sort of like prioritizing sleep, to making sure that you've got the right amount of energy and so on, which again stems from accountability. You've just got so much more energy, and just a positive outlook, and honestly, it's kind of hard to summarize. And I'm maybe not the best just to ask that question to, just because I'm still very much in the mindset of, well, like, we're not done. Like, so I try not to reflect too much.
Mm-hmm.
But from a health standpoint, it's night and day already, and we're not even done.
I always used to say to you in your check-ins, every like 10 kg you dropped, I would say, Scott, go up and pick a dumbbell.
Mm-hmm.
And we would do it at 5, we would do it
Mhm.
at 10, 20, 25.
Can't do it anymore, mate.
Just
I,
too hard. They don't do dumbbells
no
that
chance.
high.
I'll get injured, man. I've not even attempted it. I think the last one I attempted was maybe like 35 or something. I'm like, right, okay, right, well,
Yeah.
aye, that's the last of that.
But when you look at a journey like in that regard, that's when it really it makes it tangible how much you've actually lost.
Mhm.
And I can't wait. At the point of recording this, we're sat 53 kg down. We
Mhm.
know we're going to get to that 60 total 60 kg down, maybe even more. I cannot wait to post them results. But what I want to know is, you're not someone who reflects much, and I appreciate that. But if we are sitting reflecting now over the last 11 months, how would you describe your experience, working with King Coaching?
Incredible. It gets overused, the term life changing, but it is, and I won't be the only one that says that. and not just by looks, but mentally, just everything. It is a complete overhaul of how you view life, how you act in life. And the best part is that it's within touching distance for so many people. It's so accessible. Like I'm not a millionaire. I've not got my own business. So immediately, that concern, might hopefully put people at ease. It's affordable, and you get that sort of education, which is the best thing.
Yep.
Because no doubt people will come and go. And in fairness, that might actually be a good sign, because you've upskilled people and you've taught people, but then there'll be people like me that stick by it. Partly because we're not done, but see, even when we get done, accountability. That's the main thing there. And you don't need to be in the gym with me. You will be soon. Things going to plan.
Yeah.
But you don't need to be in the gym with me every day to push me on. And I guess it's all about, if you're somebody who doesn't need somebody in the gym there with them to get the best out of them. Because that's what an awful lot of people say, oh, if I'm going for a coach or a PT, I need them to be there with me. You are, but you're not in the gym. But you're always a message away.
Yeah.
And by God, when you reply, it's wisdom, it's putting you at ease, it's understanding, empathetic when you need to be. And then when things go good, you know what I mean? You absolutely just throw the praise on. There's recognition, there's understanding, especially at the start. I mean, 140 kg. I mean, what was I asked to do? Like 4,000 steps or something, like initially. And I remember saying to you, like, when I was starting to get on the meal plan, and I was having my breakfast, and I was like, mate, I can't eat this.
Yeah, I remember.
And then you said to me, right, okay, but get it down you, trust the process, and then months from now, you'll be wishing that you had what you're having now.
Yeah.
Oh, I do, mate. I do.
See and I'm glad we don't need to think about this, but because you did have apprehensions, at the start, and
Mhm.
understandably so. How do you think your health and your physique and your fitness and your life would be if you didn't make the step here?
Who knows? I still kind of hold the scars to this day of sort of essentially waiting for life to hold. Now you might not be able to see it clearly. My fingers are stained because I was smoking so much. Because I was so low that I was essentially waiting for life to finish the job that I wasn't willing to do myself. If we're being real.
That's profound, mate.
So would I have been here? Who knows? And listen, that isn't like we've just got real quick. Who knows? Because I'd been that size for so long. Start having coughing fits in your sleep, shortness of breath. You can't walk the line for yourself. Your body's in complete agony when you're walking. You've not got the confidence to go out. As soon as a camera gets whipped out, right, okay, I'll be the one that takes that.
Yeah. I think in life we're often one decision away from
Mm-hmm.
making that complete change.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, mate, as someone who's known you like before we started the coaching, I hold so much pride in the fact that you made the decision with me on that call, because I remember the apprehension. I remember that you were unsure, and I get it, and the credit genuinely goes to you, mate, because I've simply just like given you like the blueprint, but to do this has been a completely different aspect, and you've stuck to it, mate. And if there's anyone that's watching this right now, I advise really think about your journey, really think about Scott's journey, because it will obliterate any excuse that they think that they have. Because for you, it would have been easy to be resigned, that would have been your life. We blink, Scott, and we're 50 kg down plus, and even more to go.
And it was my life for so long. So if anything, I'm the best equipped to say, don't wait.
What would you say, like, if someone is on the fence, mate, and like they were thinking, "Ah, I want to join Mark and Kane coaching, but I'm just not sure." The same way maybe that you were back then.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you've lost quote a shit ton of body weight,
Mm-hmm.
and you're healthier, and you're wearing a t-shirt today, and you've achieved all these big things. We've not even touched on it yet, but you've got the job promotion.
Mm-hmm.
When you started with me, you were on a career break. We've done so much. What would you say to that person who's on the fence?
Do it. If you have your doubts, because you're very approachable, have the conversation with you. Reach out. Because nothing's necessarily locked in with that conversation. You're a safe place. And then you'll begin to see. No, actually, no. This person cares. This person wants to help me. There could be countless people watching this right now who are trapped in their own heads. And I know that's not a nice place to be. Honestly, it was completely underappreciated before I started in terms of what PTs do, what you do. And the best thing I can say now to people that might be sort of a little bit apprehensive is, you said to me that, if you do this, you're going to be a completely different person. And whilst I didn't want to be what I was, that terrified me. But now that we're sort of getting to the end of that now, or at least in terms of personal development, we've came forward leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
My lord, it's so much better, it's so much different, and I wish I started it sooner. Now, for me personally, would we have seen the same sort of results in the same timescale if I'd done it sooner? Maybe not, but people will know when they're ready, and when you are, full commitment. Do it. Good days, bad days, rain, snow, sunshine. People at beer gardens. I'm in a treadmill. You know what I mean? Not running. Put it this way: I've lost 53 kg without hitting a jog, mate. Like in 11 months.
Yeah.
You shitting me?
Yeah. And you've not like,
I've not had a jog, mate.
yeah.
See, if I was asked to jog like outside there now, I'd probably just legs wouldn't work, mate.
Yeah.
Ask me to speed walk though at an incline, I will be able to do that.
Yeah. And I think that's akin to the fact that the setup that we do with everyone needs to be sustainable. So would it have been realistic to say to you, right, Stairmaster, let's go 20 minutes, jump on that? No. It's about meeting you where you are,
Mm-hmm.
seeing where you want to get to,
Mm-hmm.
and being that bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you had to like describe your journey with myself in, let's say, 3 words, what would them 3 words be and why?
Life changed forever. I mean, it is what it says in the tin. You learn, you apply it. Every single facet changes. You maybe don't appreciate it at the time when you're in doing it. But my God, when that time comes and I look back, completely different. Everything is different. And, you know, put it this way, I thought for far too long that the world was out to get you. That things were happening, why are these things sort of happening? Why am I not getting this? Why am I not getting that? I mean, until sort of very recently, do you know what I mean? You were in all my frustrations in terms of trying to get a promotion and so on. But I'm speechless when I'm trying to summarize that, and that's not me putting it on for the cameras. Genuinely, just it is mind blowing. And the scary part is that, well, at least for me, we're not done. So imagine it when we are.
That's what gets me so excited about your journey, mate. Just to cap us off here, is we've went from 140 kg down to 89 kg, and we're still sitting here together and being like, cool,
Mm-hmm.
what's next?
Mm-hmm.
And like that, I talk a lot about stepping into the shoes of the person that you can be.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we've already done like an immense journey so far, and like I know you've still got so much left in the gas tank, and I almost predict too far into the future with some clients, and sometimes we don't get to fulfill that because life, etc. But in your case, like I already know where you're going to be at when you're a dad, when you have family, and my God, mate, when we get you to that point, like I will shed a tear and I will genuinely be so so proud, mate. Um, I want to thank you for the journey that you've had, for putting the effort in, for showing up day in, day out, and defying so many odds, changing the mentality and having this new identity. And honestly, look, long may it continue, mate. Long may that continue.
Been a pleasure, brother. Let's
Thank
shoot
you
for
so
the
much.
moon, and we'll keep smashing it.
Thanks, bro. Thanks.